Be starting momentarily. There we go.
And then I hope you are all seeing the slides. Yeah, is that correct? Okay. I didn't hear it say we're live, but we're live.
We're
Okay.
live.
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our first Project Advocacy Committee meeting of the year, January 22nd, 2025. I think we got an interesting project review for us all tonight. It's a little bit of an awkward rescoring project here because it's a little bit longer and more detailed than maybe a typical rescore would be, but it's also not maybe the length of time we would need to score a completely new project. So we'll be using our PAC meeting tonight to take a look at Stevens Creek Promenade and review the past iterations of the project and what is up for decision now with the project. There's two sort of major changes to it that are coming up. But first, I think we can just do a quick round of introductions. There's no developer here that needs to get all of our backgrounds, but it's still good to get to know everybody a little bit. So why don't we all go around and just say who we are and a little brief thing about what we do. So Alex, do you want to start us off?
Sure. Hey, all. I'm Alex. Good to be with everyone. Everyone knows me. That's enough. I'll kick it over to Carlin, and then Carlin, let's go Bob, and then Bob, let's go Casey, and then Casey, let's go Ashley. We can hear you, Carlin.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm off mute here.
Mhm.
All right, I'm back. This is kind of a special project for me because I was on the Stevens Creek, whatever it was, SCAG committee when there were a whole bunch of projects going on in Stevens Creek, and this is the only one left. It was really a great project before COVID. Then they had to scale it back, get rid of the commercial because commercial is not working too well these days. And hopefully we can get them to scale it up a little bit.
All right.
Bob?
Yeah, I'm Bob Levy. I'm a long-term land use and parks advocate nerd. I was co-chair of SCAG, which is the Stevens Creek Advisory Group, and I was on the most current Stevens Creek Advisory Group as well, the transportation-related one.
Good to have you here, Bob. And then Casey or Ashley, if either of you are here or can speak. If not, no big deal. We can jump on ahead here, I guess.
Hi, sorry, I was trying to
Oh,
unmute
sorry.
myself.
Yeah, same here.
I'll let you go,
Um,
Casey.
I'm unfortunately on my phone, which makes everything a little challenging. I'm having some kind of problem with my desktop and the Zoom app. So anyway, I've been involved on the advocacy committee for almost going on 2 years. And actually my background is in residential architecture and construction but single family homes, but I have a lot of interest and knowledge in smart growth and am passionate about supporting affordable housing and green building. And I live in Los Altos. So thanks. Ashley?
Thank you, Casey. Hi, everyone. I have my camera off because I'm also on my phone, but my name is Ashley and I do fundraising and events for Catalyze SC. I joined the Project Advocacy Committee right about when I started at Catalyze last summer. And I don't have a background in this, but I'm really passionate about affordable housing. So I'm interested in seeing what we're going to be scoring today and the rescore of this project to see how it has changed.
All right. And Chris, you want to finish us off?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, name is Chris. for Christopher. So I've been with Catalyze SV since spring of last year, looking to go into kind of combining real estate interests and kind of the social sciences, urban planning, kind of bridging those gaps. So yeah, just currently kind of in the process of, looking for experience in the field wherever I can get it, volunteering here. So yeah, so that's why I'm here and excited to learn more.
All right, good to have you here, Chris. I'm glad you're excited to learn more. There's a lot to learn about this project, so I'll start us off and throw us into it here. Stevens Creek Promenade, that's the name of the project over here. Uh, did I the its address is 4,300 Stevens Creek Boulevard. Um, I'll take you to the site. So this is where it's located along Stevens Creek Boulevard here. It's about 2 miles from Apple's headquarters, and it's also 2 miles from Valley Fair off to the right. So it's smack dab right in the middle of those two locations there. And it's highlighted in red there. It's those three parcels you see there and the
Duke, are
street
you trying
running.
to share screen?
Is it not sharing?
Not sharing it.
Oh, it's sharing. Oh my gosh. Is it sharing now?
Yep.
It's
Oh,
starting to load. Yep.
so sorry. Anyways, big picture here showing the where the project is highlighted in red I was just describing. Apple's headquarters on the left, Valley Fair Mall on the right, and it is 2 miles pretty much from both of those locations. So smack dab right in the middle there, West San Jose. And zooming in on the site context, here we have the site as it is now. It's these three parcels and the street running through the middle here. Existing uses, it's mostly offices for medical offices, medical facilities. There's a law office, and there's also a grocery store currently there, and a pizza place, Round Table Pizza, in the upper left of the site. So that's at it. That's as it is now. Nothing has been developed. Um, that's what we're looking at. And so let's take a look at what our history with the site is, what Catalyze's history with the site is. We first scored the project that we're going to take a look at back in 2018. We rescored it again in 2022, although it wasn't really a rescore. We looked at the project in 2022 and we gave some feedback about what could be improved. So currently, we have our overall score from when we first scored that project in 2018 of a 3.67 out of 5. And uh, that was originally the developer was Fort Bay. We looked at that project, and now we jumped ahead to uh, Miramar Capital to their iteration of the project. Um, and they're still the site owner, and they've got a couple of new developments, proposals for the site that have changed things significantly where it's worth taking a new look at the project. So I'll quickly just go through the timeline here of everything that's happened with the site with this project. Fort Bay purchased was the original developer purchased the site back in 2016, and then they put out a proposal for the site for 582 units. That proposal was approved by the City Council on February 26, 2019. Um, and then we didn't really have anything happening there until 2020, where Fort Bay sells the site to the current owners, uh, Miramar Capital and Machine Investment through their affiliate Stevens Creek Owner LLC. They purchased the site for 54 million in 2020. A year later, they put out their proposal for the site. We have the description for it down there. It's it's conceptually sort of similar to that original proposal back in 2016. It still consists of the four buildings. Instead of 582 units, it's just 580. And it replaced the allotment of office space. The original proposal had a lot of office. The new proposal replaced that with a hotel, a 250 room hotel. And so that proposal was approved in 2022, the same year that Catalyze rescored it, took a look at it. In 2023, a year after that, they opted to phase the project, splitting it into two phases. So the first phase of construction will develop the 173 affordable unit building, Building A, while phase two will build out the remaining 407 units plus the hotel. And then just this year, one really major modification, one not as major modification to the proposal. They submitted a preliminary review for a car dealership use on the eastern half of the site. So this would be the half of the site where there's currently a hotel proposed and one of the market rate residential buildings. And I'll show you those plans in just a second here. And then at the very end of 2024, they also proposed a Chick-fil-A in the northwest corner of the site, where under the currently approved proposal, there's nothing at that corner. That corner is being left as is. So the Chick-fil-A is really in addition to the current proposal. Doesn't really modify the currently approved designs. So I'll walk you through the Fort Bay proposal real quick, just so you have some context. This was that original proposal back 2016, 2017. It was for four buildings. Here, 582 units in total. They're a little taller than what's proposed now, but largely still similar. This is the site plan for how that looks. So building B there, parking garage exclusively. Building A is that office space, and then the two residential buildings. And if anyone has any questions or things they want to contribute, like Bob.
Wasn't that original rendering the first proposal?
The original, the first rendering in the very start of the
very beginning of the presentation.
Yeah, this one, yeah.
Yeah, that's one we liked.
Yeah, it was a very pretty one, so that's why I threw it in there. So yeah, you can see with the large, really, the Paseo crossing the site at the intersection there, so you get that really nice sort of open space. And it had 87 affordable units, 1,665 parking spaces in that parking garage there. And then this is just a larger, sort of more blown up site plan pointing to the different amenities, and it's colorful, and it's a picture that I can come back to reference if anyone has any questions or we want to look at the site again. So then time goes on. The owners of the site change hands. The ownership of the site changes hands over to Miramar and Machine Investment. And they come back in 2021 with this revised new project proposal for the site. 580 units instead of 582. And it does away with all of that office space and it reduces the commercial square footage. But it increases the number of affordable units from what it was at 80 to now 173 units. And that's one building. Building A is that affordable building. And so this is the site plan for it currently is, as it is currently approved. Building A is on the left. Building B is in the middle there. And then building C is in the lower right, and the hotel is in the upper right. And so it resembles in some ways what was originally proposed, just significantly scaled back. You can see where the DeVita Medical Group building is and the satellite healthcare. Those buildings are untouched in this proposal, whereas in the original they were part of buildings A and buildings D. And so this is a blown up, pretty colorful site plan of the current proposal. And you can see the two privately owned, publicly accessible paseos that will be going in between the two buildings here. And just how the arrangement of the site is being carried out. Just a little more detail on the currently approved proposal. To recap, it's the three 6-story residential buildings, 580 units, 250 room hotel, and in that hotel is where they have the current allotment of ground floor commercial space. There are a total of 704 parking spaces, so a few less than the 1,000 that were originally proposed. The two privately owned, publicly accessible paseos. Those are quite large. 146 long-term bicycle storage stalls, and the buildings have rooftop solar as well. Now, here's one of the modifications to the site. It's highlighted in red there in the image. In November, the developer filed a preliminary application that basically completely restructures that east side of the site. And they want to put in a car dealership. So that'll require the removal of the hotel in the north of the site and the commercial space there. It'll decrease the total unit count from 580 units to 364. But the affordable building is building A on the left, and that building remains untouched in this modification, and building B in the center also remains untouched, the other residential building. But building C in the hotel will be done away with for the car dealership. It's unclear if they're going to restructure that commercial space into the car dealership in some way. That was something that was kind of mentioned in the proposal, but as of now, it's not stated. The second modification is much smaller. It's to the upper left of the site picture here, and it is a Chick-fil-A. They'll demolish the existing building up there, and they're going to replace the building with a smaller footprint Chick-fil-A restaurant. It has no drive-through, just like the other one proposed on Stevens Creek, which I have I made this for fun a while ago, but I pulled it up because it was relevant. I know in one of our previous meetings, we discussed the 1300 West San Carlos Street Chick-fil-A, and we sent out our action alert about that one. This will be the second Chick-fil-A basically proposed on the Stevens Creek San Carlos corridor here. And then just to recap, so this was the Fort Bay proposal from 2016, 2017. And this is what we're looking at now with the Chick-fil-A under review and with the car dealership under review. A significantly different project from what all the Catalyze SV folks scored in 2018 and even later in 2022. It's shaping up to look pretty different. So with that said, I welcome any questions or anyone who wants to comment on anything. I got a lot of information I wrote up on the project in case I didn't cover it in the presentation. So can go ahead and get started with any questions I have about the project or its history. And if not any questions, then I can definitely get us thinking by asking, what categories should we look at rescoring, if any? In 2022, the folks who were here at that PAC meeting opted to not rescore any of the categories, but instead provide only feedback. So
Can you share that original scoring with us?
Yeah.
Or-
The scorecard,
I'll
I'll
put it
pull
in
it
the
up.
chat function,
Yeah,
Jake.
thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So Jake, to clarify, I know you've gone through the different derivations a few times, but to clarify, the Northwest building, which was a hotel, is now a car dealership and a Chick-fil-A. Is that right?
Yeah, so in this plan here, the area highlighted in red, those buildings over there will become the car dealership. So the northeast building there, the upper right, is the hotel as currently approved.
The
And
hotel was that big.
the hotel is the building in the upper right.
It was that big.
The building in the lower right is a residential building.
Okay.
Uh, and then the Chick-fil-A is replacing an existing building, but the currently approved proposal didn't put anything in that location. The original proposal that Catalyzes we looked at back in 2018 did have a building on that site where the Chick-fil-A is now, but the currently approved proposal does not have a building at that site.
What's happening with the rest of that upper left-hand corner?
With the upper left hand, so
There's
it's
a Chick-fil-A,
the
but there's a lot more property here than that, and it looks like there's other buildings.
yeah, so there's the Chick-fil-A and then there's that surface parking lot and the satellite healthcare building. And those are remaining unchanged. Those are existing structures. If I go back to here, you can see the surface parking lot in the middle there
Oh,
and
okay,
the
I see.
satellite
That's a
healthcare
really good
building.
picture.
So
That's
yeah,
well.
to
So that
revisit.
the upper left-hand quadrant really isn't changing at all. Just the use of that one building's changing to a Chick-fil-A,
Yeah,
and that's about it. The rest of it's all staying the same.
yeah, that's about
So
it.
the
That's
real
all
big
that's going
difference
on over
is on
there.
the right-hand side,
Hmm.
where we're replacing it with a car dealership, which the city will probably love because it's lots of tax revenue. It's going to be a hard one to fight because the city will want it.
Yeah, it's almost certainly. It's
Yeah, it's almost certain. They love their car dealerships. When we were on the SCAG, Carlin and I learned that.
Well, that's interesting. Good insight, Bob. Thanks.
Yeah, they said, yeah, you can do everything you want. Don't touch our car dealerships.
interesting.
Too much tax revenue.
I guess not even don't touch them, but build
Yeah,
even
they
more of them
probably don't
too.
mind
You
the,
add some more.
yeah, exactly.
And Bob, isn't it big tax revenue because these are big purchases?
Yeah, exactly. They're big. It's a lot of tax revenue for the county and the city. For everybody, actually. They're big purchase items.
Yeah,
Gotta make sure it's electric cars.
we just don't have a lot of details on what exactly the car dealership proposal entails, aside from the fact that they're going to be getting rid of the two buildings that are proposed for there right now.
Hotels are a big tax revenue generator too, because hotels have hospitality taxes associated with all the rooms. So they're often something that cities really want to have on site.
Hmm.
So did they come back to us asking if we would rescore this? Is that accurate?
No, it was just that these changes had sort of
Oh,
piled up over time, and we I wanted to just make sure that members were aware of these changes and what's going on with the project.
so should we assume anything that you haven't discussed is staying the same, such as the sustainability measures and whatnot?
So yes, the buildings A and B, which had rooftop solar, will continue having that, and the affordability, despite the total unit count going down, the number of affordable units will stay the same. It's going to be the 173 affordable units at these AMI breakdowns here: 50% AMI, 60%, 80% AMI. That is staying as is.
How much green space is that? Like, how big is that promenade and whatever is considered green space?
Yeah, those. This is the square footage of those two paseos, is what they called them. Is the smaller one's 14,000 square feet, and the other one is 32.5 thousand square feet.
And where are those on the lot again? Can you show us?
Yeah, this is a
Yeah.
pretty picture of where those two paseos are.
Yeah.
So are those realistically like accessible and usable to other people in the vicinity? And what's immediately surrounding these properties?
Yeah, they call them privately owned, publicly accessible
Uh-huh.
space. So they are open to the public to come and stroll through. Um, you have some apartments. In this image, you can kind of see it. These townhomes, some stacked multifamily homes to the south of the site. So you have residential down there that could definitely take advantage of something like a Paseo here. And then you're along Stevens Creek. So directly to the uh, east of this site is a car dealership. So the new car dealership would be right at home.
This is a very park poor area. There are no parks between Lawrence and pretty much, well, now there's one, now there's Santana Road Park, but between Lawrence and Winchester and Stevens Creek and 280, there's no parkland at all. Except for now at the very end at Winchester, there's a park over there now they just built as part of the project where they replaced the mobile home park. Um, so yeah, they're really desperately in need of parkland in this area. And I don't know how this relates to their requirements for PDO, PIO requirements. Uh, probably as far as falls far below what's required by the Quimby Act. So I'm not sure what they're considering here as far as what they're how much of this is going to be dedicated as part of their parkland requirements. Because
Mhm.
this is a POPO, right? Privately
Mhm.
owned, publicly accessible.
Yes,
Yep.
Yeah.
it is.
So Bob, based on your expertise of park usage, these being long and narrow sections, how usable are they other than people just passing from one side to the other as they walk?
These look relatively reasonable. There's some where they try to just have a walkway and they
Mhm.
try to get it as part of their parkland requirements. I don't think this one, these look like they could potentially, some of this could be used as part of the parkland requirements. How many units did you say there are overall?
It's 580 units.
So based on that, if there's, almost two people per unit, I'm not sure how much of a discount they get for below market value units. But theoretically, there should be about 3 acres of parkland on a project this size. They're probably, got maybe half acre, quarter acre here, half acre. So uh, they'll probably have to they'll pay their fees, their PIO fees, and but there's no place anywhere near to buy parkland, so I don't know where those fees are going to go.
Is there any information on what the car dealership is going to look like, or is that just space for a car dealer to move in and build?
There's no information on what that's actually going to look like right now. That was something they just proposed back in November. So it's yet to be seen if they will even follow that up with I think it was a zoning and a development permit as well.
Oh,
So
this is a good shot too because it shows a more open space within each one of these units that they'll be able to get credit for.
yeah,
Yeah.
the private
Private open
open
space, but
space.
they'll still be able to get credit for it.
Mhm.
And Jake, didn't you say that on this proposal that it's now less than 580 units? Did they change?
Yeah, so looking at this image or this like map of the site here, it's the hotel up in the top and the building C down there in the bottom. Those if, if this car dealership moves forward, those buildings will be replaced with the car dealership. And that'll decrease the
Yeah.
total number of units from 580 to 364.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're leaving that open space, which is really nice.
Hmm.
It's though it's being replaced, they're replacing residential units with commercial. They're leaving the open space,
Any, any,
which is nice. Yeah,
uh, increasing that, building B in
There,
both heights?
there was no mention in or any amendment or anything like that looking to increase the height of building B. So building B is staying as it currently is, as a 6-story market rate building.
Do we know why? Because everything now is 6 stories max. Originally, there were something up to 8 stories, right?
Yeah, originally there were a couple of 8-story, 2 8-story buildings there. Um,
Do you
so
know why that changed?
I don't know why that changed, why specifically those buildings change in heights. I mean the uses of those 2 8-story buildings basically um, completely
Hmm.
changed. So the office building, building A in this case, was a 6-story, but it became the hotel. Building D, um, building D in this case was split into what is now building A and building B. So the 173 unit affordable building is building A, with the market rate building building B. So they really shifted the entire blocking of the site and the massing of these buildings.
We are seeing Bob and Casey, not necessarily all build, but we are seeing more mass timber projects. Jake and I toured a 19-story mass timber project in Oakland a year ago. Last month, we scored a 12-story mass timber project in Mountain View. And we recently heard about a proposed, I think, 17-story mass timber project in Palo Alto. So the more examples we see of those, the more I think we can catalyze, advocate for that as a construction material to break free from this constraint of 6, 7, 8 stories that we often see.
Right, I'd like to see this a much bigger residential project. And I think the city's behind in greatly increasing residential on Stevens Creek, because the Stevens Creek proposal right now is basically to build a wonderful walkable, bikeable, busable street with nobody to ride the buses and ride the bikes and walk on the street. So, they really need density to make that street active.
yeah. This is a challenging lot from that perspective because it's not close to either Saratoga or Lawrence, and so it's not as walkable as some of the other locations. Um, but yeah, you're right. Those opportunity sites, especially where the major intersections are, and this long-term proposal is to actually have some type of grade separated mass transit on here, more than just a bus line. I mean, that was the point of this committee we were just on. Is 20, 30 years from now, they want to actually have a more transit oriented corridor here. But this one's 6 stories is probably appropriate because it's not right near, if you're talking about the ones that are on um, Saratoga or Lawrence, I totally agree with you. Let's go up, up, up. But this is right in the middle. This is not as walkable from where the stops are going to be.
Well, actually, if you look at that, Albany is quite a walkable street. Um,
The
Particularly
neighborhood back in there.
change its designation from a alternative to Stevens Creek to get to Saratoga into a non, what do they call them? Uh, Main Street, in other words, which it is now. And it would eliminate a mess if they could do that. That's not the developer's problem, but the city's problem.
Yeah. Well, one reason to develop up here is there's no real sensitive receptors nearby, sensitive properties. There's, the apartments and other, a lot of car dealerships.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have single family houses near. And
Yeah,
also, you also want to build up in the front and have the daylight playing towards the back, towards the apartments.
Ashley, Matthew, Chris, any questions you want to ask Jake or comments or insights you want to share with the group?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think I might come back later with one.
Mhm.
Not at the moment, but thank you.
I'm
Great.
still evaluating everything, all the information I've been given. It's a lot, so no questions right now.
Yeah, it's like three different projects
Yeah, it's
in
three different
one sort of
projects.
thing. So there's a lot of changes and a lot of different information for each iteration of what was proposed here. And so that returns to the question of how do we want to engage on this as Catalyze SV, as our project advocacy committee? Because we scored it that first time in 2018. And when we revisited the project in 2022, PAC decided to just provide feedback there. So,
And Jake, before we do that, let's maybe decide if there are any final questions and then jump on YouTube.
yes, I guess that would make sense.
Yeah,
Any final?
a
Yeah.
question on the car dealership in essence. These are separate parcels, right?
Yeah, so these are the three parcels here.
So the proposal on the car dealership, is that something they're probably allowed to do by right? And so this may be ministerial on their part and not legislative and so they probably may not have a lot of say on that car dealership side.
Yes, that would that would be something to look at. I should have. I do have their comments on their proposal there, so I should take a look and see what bodies it would be going through appropriately and how.
Yeah,
Right,
looking at the map of that stretch of Stevens Creek, there's many different car dealerships all along that stretch.
Yeah,
So it
yes,
does actually kind of fit with that theme.
Yeah, it definitely wouldn't be out of place with how the street is now. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as an advocacy group, if you have a say in this property, then you may want to say, well, we don't really like the idea of a car dealership. We want to see more housing. But if we don't really have any say in it, it's not worth the effort.
Mm-hmm.
Like people trying to fight Costco in my neighborhood and saying, you guys are going to lose, you guys don't have a
Over
chance in the world of winning this fight.
Yeah.
They kept trying to get me on board. I said, I can't. You're not going to win.
Yeah. Well, I do like that they're now about 47% plus on affordable housing. So I think that's a pretty big plus, even if there's other, perceivable drawbacks. It's they are building a lot of affordable housing that we need. I would like to see still more density and I guess but I mean, I wouldn't even want to rescore this without really knowing. Like, I think we'd have a lot of assumptions about what they're actually doing. If we're looking at what we scored a couple of years back, I don't really feel like that's necessarily an indication of what they're planning to do now in terms of the sustainability and other details, like from the so I guess I'd have a lot of questions that I don't feel like we have answers for.
Yeah, that's a good point, Casey, because it's if they're altering things to such a huge degree as they are with just removing two buildings entirely, then what does that mean for some of the smaller details on the other two buildings in terms of just simple things like bicycle parking, as you said,
And
the
even
sustainability features.
even on vibrancy, the notes from the last, I guess that was 2022 notes that I'm looking at. They're they say there's going to be a children's play area, an outdoor exercise area with equipment, fenced dog play area, seating platforms, all in the promenade slash green space, which sounds fantastic. But is that actually still the plan? I don't know. I feel like,
Yeah.
if we're scoring just based on our own assumptions, it's not really helpful,
Yeah, it definitely would be helpful. We don't typically whatever questions like we do generate from this. So I guess asking about those sustainability features and whatnot, I will absolutely be talking with the developer, and we plan to meet sometime in the future to discuss whatever feedback and questions we had from our discussion tonight. Um, and then I was just looking at it real quick here, but the existing zoning does not allow the auto dealership use. So it'll require the submittal of a new plan development zoning, plan development permit, and map for the site for the car dealership.
Well, that's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are you planning to put together a list of questions and go back to them with questions?
So if there
And
if
ask if
there
they want
were
to
any
publicly see?
questions, like things that I obviously don't have answers to tonight, yes, anything like that, and then coming back with those again and taking another more succinct rescoring of the project.
I
That
mean,
was one option.
basically, all Catalyze SV would be interested in on this is the two residential buildings. I think the affordable building with good sustainability, that Paseo in between the two residential buildings. But I would like to see both of those buildings much bigger,
Mhm.
much taller, and even bigger in spacing, because they got a parking lot in here. They got parking over here beside the Paseo. Is that what I'm seeing?
The parking to the east, that's so I wonder, do I have a larger? So that's building C right now. So there's underground below grade parking in building C, but it is a residential building. If that's what you were asking, Carlin, if that clarifies that. Is that what you were asking about, the building C?
Well, yeah. Where's the parking for building A and B if those are the only two buildings left?
It's that's actually a good question because it's all underground. They did significantly reduce the parking. I could go check and see real quick what each building has in terms of parking, because so there's going to be less than 494 parking spaces given, well, it's a car dealership, so I guess everywhere they have a car parked will be a parking space. So I don't really know. But in terms of the residential parking spaces, it will be less than 494 as is currently proposed because we're losing one residential building. And I know that the parking is structured at grade and underground in each of the residential buildings. So I don't know how much parking is in each building, but those two remaining residential buildings do have their own parking. It's not like because of course the original proposal, this one here from Fort Bay back in 2017, this one did have that large structured above ground parking garage in the lower right. But the currently approved proposal does not have a parking garage. The parking is encompassed within each building. This one.
Did you mean to keep sharing, Jake?
Is it stop? Did it stop sharing?
Stop
No,
just.
it's sharing.
Oh, it's
Is it which what is it sharing slides?
oh yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it
sharing.
says car dealership. Chick-fil-A.
Okay, cool, good. That's what I was supposed to be
Yeah.
sharing. I had the
Hey,
other
Jake,
things.
I know that I tend to disagree with Alex a little bit sometimes on the parking requirements. But parking requirements is no longer an issue anyway because there are no parking requirements. So where we used to say, well, I think we need to have at least one per unit and, one one for every 10 units on top of that or something that I would say. Alex would disagree with me. Um, we're not we don't have no say anymore anyway because the developer has complete control of what parking they're going to put in there. It's theoretically driven by market forces now.
Yeah, I think usually what yeah, the discussion is like in here is looking at projects and trying to find ways the developer can reduce their parking further if there's things that they can offer in terms of transportation,
Yeah.
demand management strategies. So we've
Well,
seen car share from a couple of places recently, like
yeah.
Zipcar or other things like that.
I would love us to be able to reduce parking to the greatest extent possible, but we're still in a car society, and so
This is a car dealership, so
we,
yeah.
we are in there's no people are going to get there by car whether we like it or not. They're not a, I'm a total bike advocate that I don't ride Stevens Creek.
Well, I guess my feedback on this is, if you want to go, I would go back to the developers and ask them if they would want to present to us since I don't think that they have, propose,
Uh,
shared that with us, and go over some of the details, especially around the sustainability, the vibrancy question, some of the other things, and on affordability, I want to know like, what's the percentage AMI, how much of their units are the 50%, 60, 80, all those breakdowns, specifically, like we normally like to get from the developers, just so we can get more insight into this, and potentially give them a new rating.
Yeah, we do have those AMI breakdowns, and that affordable building is still remaining the same.
Okay.
It's the 58 units at 50%, 29 at 60, and then another 29 at 80 right now. That's how it was approved, and that's how they've kept it.
Okay.
So there's at least one thing we know. The other is, yeah, I guess, Alex, did they present? They didn't present. Did they present a new version of the project in 2022?
I can't recall. It's possible.
Because on the website, there's no link to a 2022 presentation. So,
Okay. You'd have to go back on the Facebook and
mm,
see. Um, Casey, one challenge I want to just bring up is, and we've done this before when weren't quite sure, is that Jake's pushed out all the information. We've had a really good discussion. If we sort of disband today and don't score some elements of the project, then we have to start again at square one, potentially at the next meeting with slightly different people. So if there are categories where we have enough information, if we can get a score now, then at least we have that on the table. And if we need to add categories in the future with more information, we can do that. Just want to bring up that challenge, if that makes sense.
yeah. And sorry, Chris, you have your hand raised as well. You've been sitting there. Sorry. Go ahead. Oh, you're muted.
Oh yeah, so yeah, the whole thing about the parking. Yeah, I was just wondering, is it usually, because that's obviously a big topic around here, because a lot of advocates, kind of want to encourage, moving away from automobile dependency, but at the same time, vast majority of tenants have cars, and then just the neighborhoods become overflowed with street parking. So I think biggest thing I'm curious about is, does it often infringe on being able to build units, always having to compensate with parking spaces? And also, yeah, because I know some garages go quite a bit underground, and also there's like rooftop garages, but of course, takes up quite a bit of space. So And I guess another one I'm kind of asking is a lot of this due to the advocacy for trying to encourage people to use alternative forms of transportation, or is a big part of it just that it's a hindrance to building more housing units, the parking?
Well, yeah, well, parking is not cheap to build.
Hmm.
And that's certainly one part of it is the cost, and then the other is the advocacy, like you said. But cost is definitely a major component. I don't know what the numbers are off the top of my head right now. I wish I did, but the surface parking lots are pretty expensive. But when you take that parking to provide, like for these infill projects, you don't really have a lot of surface parking lot to work with. So when you take that underground or into a structured parking garage, it dramatically increases the costs per space when you have to build those like structured types of uh, parking. So absolutely, parking can could sink it could tank the
Yeah.
viability of a proposal.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, because it's just huge point of contention, for both pretty much all parties affected. So I'm like,
And yeah,
yeah.
again, now San Jose are the way we handle parking now is it's really up to those market forces what the developer thinks is possible and can be done.
Hmm.
Chris, that's a good observation because that area is nothing, but there's a sea of apartments there. And they don't have enough parking in those apartments, and there's a lot of people on the streets parking. So it's very challenging to park in that area.
Hmm.
Yeah. Carlin knows I used to work there, right? You used to work in the dealerships there, and knows how difficult the parking is in that area.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have to run in a minute. I have another webinar
All
to
right.
get to.
Well, thank you for joining us, Bob. If you are not here when
Sure.
we have our final decision, but
Yeah.
Alex, were you gonna add something?
No, just wanted to see where you guys want to go and if you want me to take it off YouTube. And yeah, Ashley put a good comment in the the
Yeah,
chat.
Well,
we
well,
can.
before we leave, I have the same problem with the Chick-fil-A that we had with the other Chick-fil-A. A one-story bunch of surface parking is a horrible use for that valuable space on Stevens Creek. They ought to figure out some different way to get a restaurant or something like that as the ground floor of another apartment building.
Yeah, what's unfortunate, I think, with both of the Chick-fil-A's we've looked at recently is both of them are proposed on sites where we had previously scored a residential project on there. So here, that corner in the very first proposal from 2017 was a residential building, and the one on West San Carlos was also a residential project that we had scored. That's now going to just become a Chick-fil-A. So there's definitely
My
issues
gut
with
is they're saving that, they're keeping this in their back pocket, so when they can develop that entire area on the upper left.
Yeah, I kind of wondered something similar, Bob, if that is the TBD part of the development.
Right.
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A will be there for 10 years and then they'll have another proposal for this.
And, part of our advocacy could include working on the phases or the parts of the project that we like the best and starting with those because as we've learned with this development in particular and lots of developments, the market conditions change and the development changes. So if there's a part that we like best, maybe we advocate for that part of the project or we segment out the scoring potentially. Yeah, just thoughts.
yeah, and uh, I don't know how I forgot to neglect to mention this, but in February of this year, for the 173 unit affordable building, they did get all of their funding to go ahead with construction on that building. That portion of the property, I believe, was um, was sold to Pacific West Builders, or what was the the company that it's going to be building the housing there and then operating it. Um, so they have their financing to go ahead with construction there. So,
Well, it sounds like if
thank you, Bob.
building A and possibly A and B already have approval and are moving ahead, we don't really have anything to do in terms of scoring that because it's kind of a done deal, which sounds fine. We can say, yay, good job, and clap our hands. But right? I mean, and then the
Hmm.
question is, do we have anything we want to or can say about the rest of it at this point? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it certainly puts it into a very strange place here, I think, with this project where it's so iterative. It's almost like a ship of Theseus situation where you have every board of the ship has been replaced. Is it really the same ship? Is it really the same project when every element of the project has been replaced? Oh, slowly over time too. It's not like there was a new iteration of this project that just did these things, but they were cobbled together, added here. Um, but yeah, like phase one of this project is the 173 unit affordable building. And that I haven't been checking for if it has received any building permit yet or what they've submitted for, but that's presumably if they have financing like they got early last year, it's a year from then, they probably are going to start construction on that soon. So that phase one building A, yeah, that's probably as locked in, finalized as something could get.
Well, Alex, what are you proposing regarding scoring?
I mean, I'm happy to defer to our members and to Jake. Um, but I guess we have a couple paths here. One is to delay it altogether, and get more analysis from Jake and the developer. Another is to score particular categories, and hold off on the others. Another is to maybe potentially segment part of the project that either A, we like, or A, is still open for approvals and isn't already going forward, and try to advocate around those projects. And I guess the fourth option is to Jake's analogy, there's too many parts of this ship and it's too complicated and we wash our hands of this thing. So I'm flexible and I'll follow the members as we always do.
Yeah. You know, as far as I'm concerned, this isn't a project that we scored and isn't, the only thing that we could even comment on is, hey, thanks for the nice affordable building on Stevens Creek, but can't you do more with the market rate building? And because market rate housing is still a disaster in San Jose. And can't you use that north northwest site, that northwest site better than putting a Chick-fil-A there?
Yeah, there's definitely that angle we can approach from, and even advocacy regarding the car dealership, if that's proposed. It's not set in stone that it has to be a car dealership. It's a legislative decision there. So I think there's still room for advocacy both on the unused portion of the site that will become that Chick-fil-A and what they're proposing to redo. I the it's a Yeah, this was a tough project because I didn't know how I wanted to bring it to rescore to all of you because it is not a clear cut, oh, they added another floor onto the project. Oh, they increased their affordability numbers, allocated more units to very low income or something like that. It's a lot of different changes all over the place, um, which makes it really tricky to score, especially because some of it's moving ahead, even as they're re-proposing parts of the project. Uh, so it makes it really complicated where maybe we do want to, I don't know, like close the book on our scoring of Stevens Creek Promenade as a project. Maybe Stevens Creek Promenade as a project doesn't really exist anymore. It's these two buildings down here. And then we're seeing proposals for this Chick-fil-A and a proposal for a car dealership. So it's a very tricky thing to look at.
Yeah, it feels like it's kind of broken up now, just partly because of the phasing. They already have approvals, it sounds like, on the first two phases, the residential, right?
Yeah, what was phased is that building A is part of
Mhm.
phase one, and then buildings B, C, and the hotel would are part of phase two. But now we have the car dealership proposal. So maybe building C and the hotel won't be part of phase two. Phase two will just be building B.
Right. I mean, I think that it seems like, it feels to me like the residential is very separate from the commercial development, and the commercial being a Chick-fil-A and a car dealership, it's not very vibrant, right? And I guess, it seems like more of a question of, do we want to advocate as an organization? Do we have a position on wanting to advocate around projects like that, or not? And I think we kind of have to be careful about how we do it if we do want to advocate against projects. But it feels like that's kind of what we would probably be doing in some capacity or another. Like, even if we're like, can you do that? We'd like to see that as more of a mixed use development. I don't know. I mean, certain kinds of projects don't really lend themselves well to mixed use. And unfortunately, we're still in a paradigm of having some types of land uses continue to be low density. And I guess the question is, where are those? I mean, like Bob said, this is more in the middle of Stevens Creek, not near the big intersections, or not right at the big intersections, which is, a better place for lower density, and we want higher density at those major intersections um, where transit stops and other things are. So I don't know. I have very mixed feelings. I don't feel like I have a strong feeling that we should advocate on this, but um, open to other thoughts.
Yeah, because the it's gonna be that Chick-fil-A that we could oppose or the car dealership that we could oppose. That's kind of, I think, what it looks like.
Thanks for your thoughts, Casey. That was super helpful. Carlin, I think you were going to jump in too, right?
Yeah, I'm, you know, I just, this isn't the promenade project that we scored ever. It's a totally different project, and I think we just ought to close the promenade thing, and take a look at this one sometime later and see what they're proposing and see what we can do with it. In the meantime, advocate for, or just talk to the developer about the poor use of the northwest corner. And it seems to me that they obviously have a car dealership and that's interested in buying or building on that area there. And there's not much we can do about that, because the city's going to say, yeah, we want the car dealership because we want the tax.
Yeah.
I think, Carlin, that's a good way of looking at it. Like you just said, closing the book on it because it's not the project. It's not the same project anymore. It's a different thing happening.
Yeah.
So talking to the developer, seeing what they're doing with the Chick-fil-A, and then in the future, seeing what the actual proposal for the car dealership looks like, and maybe having the developer come back talking about that might be an option. Or
I
I'm
mean,
leaning towards not rescoring or scoring any.
sales, but those are the two paseos are desperately needed along Stevens Creek in that area.
Mhm.
And but that's the only thing about the project that I like at this point.
Yeah. Alex,
Yeah,
did you
I
want
mean,
to
if
take?
anything, I agree with that. And maybe rather than, I don't know that we really benefit a lot from rescoring it at this point, but maybe just having that communication and sending a letter and saying, we're happy to see the affordable housing, going forward, and really like the paseos and the green space, and kind of an encouragement letter of keep these things, and we'd love to see, more details on the project if you'd like us to look at it in the future. And, I guess encouragement like, you know, around the sustainability and other details. And leave open the possibility for them to come back if they want to. But I also don't feel like we need to, push too hard on this one, because I just feel like it's likely to go ahead anyway with these lower density developments, which I understand from a financial perspective, and there's not a good model in our community for building for those kind of uses in a higher density or mixed use kind of way. So I feel like you're kind of stuck between you know, a rock and a wall there to get anything greatly improved. I just don't want to be like, running really fast in place and not really getting anywhere with our time or efforts. But I think if we can encourage good development, and and even say, we'd love on this in an area like anywhere along Stevens Creek, we like to see higher density and mixed use. And it's kind of like encouragement, but we're not really giving them a score, and it may go nowhere, but at least we're not spending too much resources on it at the same time.
Yeah, I think those were really good comments, Casey, and I think I agree with all of them. Sort of have to pick and choose our battles here on which projects we want to focus our efforts on, and
Yeah.
this might not be one of them, and there's probably not one of them given how it's shifting and changing.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. I
but
agree with all of you, and that makes a lot of sense to me. And I think that's where the consensus of this group is going. And so I'm
mhm.
good with that. So
Yeah,
yeah, makes sense.
if there was anyone who felt really strongly that we should score the project, um, share your thoughts. But it doesn't seem like we're leaning towards scoring it. So with that said, I guess the objective will be to maintain a dialogue with the developer on this project and figuring out uh, how it will shape up, but not necessarily investing the energies to rescore it or even oppose it in some ways.
Agree.
Yeah, closing the book on Stevens Creek Promenade. Does that sound
Yeah.
acceptable to everybody?
I
And
think
Jake, it does sound from Casey like we should author some kind of letter with some
Yeah,
input.
more
Yeah.
formal input.
I mean, I really think that always can only help, not hurt, because you're not penalizing them, but you're hopefully giving them some food for thought. And the more people hear that kind of input put from different places over time, the more they just become naturally more open and interested in it, sort of organically, even if it's not where their original mindset is. So I think the more we can just plant those seeds and put that encouragement out there, and help people think about what good development looks like beyond their own perspective, which is often driven financially and different things for different people. But yeah, I think the encouragement is helpful, because over time it may have an impact, even if it doesn't drastically change one particular project.
Yeah, yeah. Perfectly said. Just always being that voice there in the room and just always advocating for those positive things that Catalyze SV represents.
Yeah.
Awesome. Ashley, Matthew, Chris, any final comments on Stevens Creek Promenade? I had a couple other mini items I wanted to mention.
No, I think I'm mostly in agreement with everyone else.
Good to
Thanks, Matt.
hear.
Appreciate it. Anyone else on Stevens Creek Promenade? Okay. A couple other updates. We did, and Jake, feel free to jump in or interrupt me. We did have a very
Yeah.
successful action alert in December after the Chick-fil-A on Stevens Creek that we alluded to earlier. Jake, we had how many folks respond on that action alert?
I think there were 21 responses now. Also, do you want to keep us up on YouTube or do you want to?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
sure, for
fine.
now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so 21 folks wrote in. That's great. If that anyone was on the call, who's on the call did that, thank you. If not, your scoring
Yeah.
helps create our position. And so thank you for that. Oh, do you have more stuff on here,
No,
Jake?
I was just going to the Chick-fil-A slide where
Oh,
I
yeah.
have the pin of the Chick-fil-A. We wrote the action alert on 1300 West San Carlos over there. So yeah, thank you to all of you who replied to that.
So we're waiting on a community meeting that might happen in the next month, and we'll send out an action alert around that. We did have the city approve its ministerial streamlining housing policy for projects along the urban village that we sent out an action alert around in December. Jake and I determined that October, November, and December were very busy for policy and project advocacy. We had like, I don't know, 8 or something action alerts in a few months. So we also will be following up with you on Pleasant Hills. We would like to do some more community engagement with you all around that. And so Jake and I are working on a plan to hopefully the broad contours of it, or to invite community leaders like all of you to come and redevelop the Pleasant Hills Golf Course site yourself using GIS tools to help envision what you think it should look like. So we'll be working on that and outlining all our plans for the year coming up, including housing tours, hopefully of some projects that you all have scored in past years that are opening up. And we would like to go see those developments. So we will follow up with you on that as those tours get scheduled throughout the year. We're going to try to do 4 in 2025. Jake, any other project updates on things we've been working on that might...
Housing tours, projects finishing up construction, Bascom Station. I don't know if any of you were there when Catalyze scored that project, but Bascom Station is now opening up and you can kind of walk around through it through the public space and the little paseo that they have connecting the train station to the rest of the neighborhood. So that's a pretty big project that is finishing construction now.
So we're setting up to end tonight's meeting a little early. Anyone else have any comments, questions, or updates on projects or this committee that they want to share?
No.
Mm-hmm. All right. That's good. I'll take that.
Well, thanks everyone for coming. Thanks, Ashley, for taking some time, and Chris and Matthew and Carlin for always being here. You're such a solid rock for us. We appreciate you, Carlin. And Jake, thanks for leading us in this meeting. And hopefully we'll have an exciting new development for you all to score next month.
Yeah, there's a couple of exciting new projects in San Jose, Santa Clara as well that I hope we can bring to you in February. Some pretty big ones.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Great
Yeah,
seeing
thank you.
everyone.
Yeah,
Good
thank
night.
you for joining us.